Father God, we're grateful to have this opportunity to meet together and consider your strategies for growing your businesses as being effective in the marketplace. We are grateful that you have invited us to join you in your work in the marketplace. Holy Spirit, I ask you to teach this class. You be the one speaking through this. You be the one to sink the truths from Scripture in our hearts, change us to be like Christ, and then send us out to help others learn how to run their companies for Christ. We commit this meeting to you in Jesus' name. So, a little bit of background. I'm the Chief Scientist of the Tetra Corporation. We started Tetra 41 years ago, anniversary a couple of weeks ago. We started as a company for Christ from the beginning. We had a vision for that. Tetra is a modifier meaning for, like carbon tetrachloride. The three of us originally started it. Saw God as the forward-seeing partner in business. It wasn't until we connected with FCCI in 1997 that we began to understand how to do that. My personal growth rate went from something like this to something like that after joining FCCI. It's been huge. So we're great fans of FCCI. It's been a huge impact in our business. We're a high-tech R&D company. We're specialists in a field of electrical engineering called pulse power. We store electrical energy and then switch that into a load to accomplish something. The ignition system in your car is a pulse power system, or the radar is a pulse power system. We just work at about 4 times greater peak power than any of those systems, 4 orders of magnitude greater peak power. We move electricity around like some folks move water. We are operating right on the frontiers of technology. We're doing things that have never been done before. So we constantly are going to the Father and saying, okay, what do we do next? How do we proceed with this project? How do we solve this technical problem? Constantly. We meet as a company each morning at 8 o'clock to pray for the business. Tim and I meet again at 2 to pray for the business. Prayer is the key for our business. One of the tools that has been immensely helpful to us is Board of Advisors. We've had a Board of Advisors for well over 20 years. And it has made a huge impact in our company. So I want to talk about that impact and hopefully motivate you to seriously consider Board of Advisors for your business. It really makes sense. It really makes sense. Let's talk a little bit about a Board of Advisors. Typically 4 to 8 people. Our board meets quarterly, and they are there to advise us on company operations. It is key that they be godly people. It's far more important to have people that know Jesus well and that pray lots than it is to have people with business or technical expertise. Because we are expecting God to speak through the board. The board is a tool that we expect God to speak through to advise us on what to do. It's helpful if they're knowledgeable in some aspect of the business. We've had people on our board that are very knowledgeable in drilling. That's what we're doing now. We also have a board member who has told me several times, I don't know why I'm here, because he doesn't have the technical expertise in our field, but he's the only one on the board who has been involved in production. And we have had folks on our board tell us, Bill, at the end of the day, you have to make one of these. And so having someone on the board who not only has made one, but has made millions is really helpful. So it's helpful to have someone knowledgeable in the board of advisors, knowledgeable about your business, but it's more important that they have that relationship with God. Here's some of the benefits. You should expect God to speak through your board meeting every time. We do. We expect to hear from God through the board members every meeting. That's the biggest benefit of the board of advisors right there. We can stop building. That's the biggest advantage of the board of advisors is that you should expect that God to speak through your board members, and that's why you want godly praying board members, because you should expect God to speak through them. The other benefit is that it reduces tunnel vision. Now, it's probably not true in your business, but it certainly is in ours, that I especially get wrapped around a technical issue. And my whole world disappears into that tunnel of solving that technical problem. That's how God's built me. And just ask Moeny about that, she'll tell you. And that's a big deal when you're around the business now. Now that Tim has taken over as president and I'm focusing more on technical issues, we can bounce issues off each other, and that helps a lot. The board is a hugely beneficial tool in reducing tunnel vision. So they'll talk to us about other markets, their business operations, their opportunities, because these members are not involved in the business day by day. They're coming once a quarter, and they're bringing to the meeting their perspectives on other areas of business and technology. Exceptionally helpful. That aspect of reducing tunnel vision is just huge. Because we all are focused on our businesses. We're all focused on the issues. And the Board of Advisors helps move us out of that to see the larger picture. It's a very, very powerful tool for managing a company. Our goals are to make an impact in the marketplace for God's kingdom. And having the Board of Advisors that asks the hard questions helps to do that. And it helps in major ways. It's a very, very powerful tool for managing a company for Christ. And perhaps as important as any other factor, the prayer team. Your business should have a prayer team. You are missionaries. And just like the missionaries that you support need prayer to do the work, so does your business. And you should have a prayer team of people that specifically will pray for your business. The Board of Advisors will clearly pray for the business. But you should have an additional team. We've got about 16 people on our prayer team. I send them a list of usually 1 praise and 3 requests every 2 to 4 weeks. And these are people that have said, we'll pray for touch. And they're scattered around the country. We send them prayer requests, as I said, every 2 to 4 weeks. You need that. That's incredibly helpful. Because once you make the decision to run your company for Christ, you are going to have a target painted on your back. Adversaries are going to come after you. You need the prayer support, you need the prayer protection. You need folks praying for the business. So your prayer team is very helpful. With your Board of Advisors, you're going to be on the front lines of your prayer team. They should be the ones you first go to at a crisis. They should be the ones that of course, they receive your regular prayer request. But if you've got something unusual happening, the first thing you should do is send out a prayer request to your advisors. Say, please pray for this. That's a very important part of our board. And that's why you want godly praying people on your board, because you're going to go to them and ask them to pray. Half the value of our Board of Advisors meeting is preparing for a meeting. because it forces me, and now Tim, to step back from running the business, in the business, forces us to now work on the business. I'll show you an agenda in a little bit, but we give a summary of what's going on in the business every quarter to our board, and it forces us to step back from solving the next problem or dealing with the next crisis into overall what's going on with the business. What's it look like? Strategically and tactically. So that's half the value of the board meeting, is preparing for the meeting. And then because we do that, it also then stimulates the board to look at what we're doing strategically relative to other things going on in the marketplace. We usually have one or two board members say, well, have you thought about this? Or here's a connection you need to think about. Or this is what's happening in the market that you might not realize. Very, very important. The other thing your board will do, and that you want them to do, is ask you the hard questions. You should, questions like, why are you doing this? And if we're talking about a move into a different market sector, or we're talking about making a change, your advisor should ask you, why are you doing this? Is this consistent with the corporate vision? Is this what God wants you to do? If you don't have a corporate vision statement, you need to. And the vision statement is a picture, it's a painting that you hang on the wall that shows what the business is like in 5 to 10 years. And it needs to be specific enough that you can tell when you get there. If it's not specific and measurable, it's not a vision. It might be an idea, but a vision statement is a statement. It's a painting on the wall that says this is what the company looks like in 5 years or 10 years. And then you need a mission statement. What does your company do? What does it not do? The not do is as important as the do. Our mission statement shifted from working in the defense industry, and especially developing new advanced weapon systems, into drilling in the late 90s. It wasn't my idea. God said, I want you to move out of defense work into drilling. I had no idea where he was headed with that. But a few years later, he got us involved in this major project we've been working on for the last 15 years. And so mission statement needs to say what you do and what you don't do. And folks from Sandia call back and say, well, would you develop this for us? No. We used to do that kind of contract research, but we don't anymore. We don't take on a project unless we own the technology and we can see a clear path to commercialization. So we hurts to turn down work, but mission statement says we don't do contract defense work anymore. And so we focus on things that end up with a commercial pay. So your mission statement needs to be specific enough to say what you do and what you don't do. And then you need a purpose statement. Why does the company exist? No platitudes. Why does the company really exist? Part of our purpose statement is to create cash flow for supporting the kingdom. So that's why owning intellectual property matters to us, because we have a strategy to put most of that intellectual property, the payout from that intellectual property, into the National Christian Foundation. It's part of why we exist. Part of our purpose. Your purpose statement needs to be specific. It needs to be clear. And those three things really matter. Vision, purpose statement, mission statement. And you should vet those with your board, so that your board can ask you the hard questions. Why does your purpose statement say that? If your vision is not specific enough that you can develop a plan from it, then it's not a vision. It's just a dream. A vision without a plan is just a dream. It's not going to go anywhere. You should be able to develop a strategic plan to reach your vision And if your vision is not specific enough to do that, you have not yet understood the vision God's given you. So how do we form a board of advisors? Well, the first thing you do is pray. You ask God, okay, it seems like a board of advisors would be a good thing. Who do you have in mind? What is your plan? Who do you want on this board? Because fundamentally, you want God to speak through the board to you, so He needs to choose them. Don't go choosing somebody just because they're a nice person. Ask God, who do you want? What is your purpose here? If you're running a company for Christ, you need to be spending time with God every morning, seeking what He wants to do. And part of that should be, who do you want on the board of advisors? What's your plan? That's your first. And then secondly, ask questions like, who do you know that loves Jesus and has a deep prayer life and loves you enough to tell you when you're wrong? Those are the people you want on your board. Don't just hire people. Don't just ask people to serve on your board that agree with everything you're doing. That's not helpful. You don't need to duplicate yourself on your board. You need people who love you enough to tell you when you're wrong. That's extremely valuable. And then it's helpful if they have expertise in your field of business. It's helpful. It's very helpful. It's not a requirement. The other two are much more important. You need to clearly grasp the vision. And if your board members do not grasp the vision for the company, it's your fault. You need to communicate the vision to them in a way they clearly understand. And you need to communicate that vision before you ask for a commitment for them to join. They need to grasp the bigger picture. Where is this company going in the next 5 to 10 years? And how can they be used by God to contribute to that? You need to communicate the vision clearly. It's not necessary that they live locally. Of our 6 board members, 2 live local. The others live other places. I'll talk more in detail. We have 1 that lives in Tucson, 2 that live in the Denver area, and 1 that lives in Michigan. When we have a board meeting, we pay their expenses.
So they come.
They come. Usually they come, not always.
It's not electronic. You don't do it over.
We do both. We much prefer that they be here in person. And the reason is that we end up with a lot of side conversations beyond the meeting itself. But sometimes people can't make it. And so then we do it via WebEx. And WebEx works quite well because we can show the slides and have a conversation. But we typically have them come here. And many of them prefer that, but not everybody can. We're all busy. And not everybody can. So it's not necessary that they be local. It's worked very well for us. It is an additional expense. You need to pay their expenses. But they're advisors, they're not directors, so don't pay them for their time. And there's a legal principle in that. We learned that when we were first forming the board of advisors. Our attorney said, if you pay them for their time, they become liable for the corporate decisions of the company. Because the court will impute to them the liability of a director. But if you do not pay them for their time, in other words, they serve voluntarily, they have no such liability. And so we do not pay our advisors for their time. Most of them are passionate about the vision, and so they're very glad to do it.
You see liability more?
Yeah, if you have a board of directors for your company, for example, and something bad happens and you get sued, the suit will include your corporate officers and your board of directors. Because at the end of the day, the buck stops with the board of directors. If you have a board of advisors, they are only advisors and they have no legal liability. So if you get sued, it will stop with your corporate officers, but will not include your bosses. So that's a really good reason to not pay them for their tomorrow, because it separates them from that liability. Your kind of business that may not be an issue, but it was a conscious choice we made when we first formed board of advisors. And by the way, there is a document in the FCCI inventory on how to form board of advisors. If you can't find it, ask us. Renee has it. So you want them to remain advisors from a legal standpoint, but functionally, you want to submit to them as if they were directors. And so that's one of the reasons why you want godly praying people, because it's not going to be very helpful to you if you don't listen to what they say. That's not accomplishing your purposes. So you do want to make a decision in your heart that you're willing to submit to your board of advisors. One of the reasons that the board of advisors is so helpful is exactly that one. That it requires you to exercise sufficient humility to listen to somebody else. And in Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, he studied a number of different companies looking for the characteristics that separated good from great companies. And it turned out the most common characteristic was the humility on the part of the CEO. Great companies have a humble CEO. So-so companies have a very prideful CEO. So having a board of advisors helps us to move into that humble position. Because it's not going to be helpful if you're not willing to listen to what they say. We have a meeting quarterly with them. We've got a meeting coming up in a couple of weeks. And so I'll show you in a little bit, we schedule those meetings a year in advance. And that has proven to be exceptionally helpful for our advisors. You want to pray for the meeting. It's your most important preparation. You want to be asking God to speak through the board. You want to ask them to pray for significant issues regularly. And like I said, they're the front line on your prayer team, and you want to take advantage of that. And if you got an issue, take it to them. Even if it's between meetings, take it to them. Don't wait. And then we usually have dinner afterwards. It's a good social time. Only about half of our advisors are present for dinner. Our Tucson advisor typically leaves right after the meeting back to Tucson. And our Michigan advisor typically stays overnight. And it's helpful to just have some social time together. Another feature that we use at Tetra is an annual praise and thanksgiving meeting. We typically have that in the first half of November, and it's a corporate dinner that the company pays for. Gather our employees, our consultants, and our advisors. We typically schedule it on the evening of the board meeting, so they're already in town. And it's a social time, but the most important time is I spend about 45 minutes telling the God stories for the year. What are the things that God has done that we need to celebrate and praise Him for? See, in John 14:13, Jesus says, "Whatever you ask in my name, I will do, so the Son may bring glory to the Father." He's telling us that the reason He answers prayers for glory to come to the Father. So it's important for us to complete that cycle, that we bring glory to the Father for what He has done during the year. I keep a running record of prayer requests and answers, and then I select the most significant ones, and we spend about 45 minutes telling God's stories. It's my favorite part of the meeting. This is what a typical agenda looks like. It's actually the agenda from our last board meeting. We open in prayer, then we go over the status of the project. We have one project we're working on for, it's actually 3 major companies right now, and so we go over that. How are we doing? Where are the obstacles? Just go over that. the status of the project. Then we talk about financials, financial report to our board. Marketing update, what are we doing for new projects? Just recently, we started branching out to new projects. We had made a commitment to our partners that we were not going to work on anything else, but focus all our efforts on that major project. And then very recently, they gave us permission to branch out, so we're in the process of doing that. So we talked about that. We actually have 3 companies that are all filling different functions and a trust that owns all those companies. And so we give an update on what that looks like, how that fits. And then we list in our slides the dates for the next meeting. So we try to schedule those meetings a year in advance. And by laying it out early, then we can identify conflicts and reschedule as necessary. It's very helpful to everybody to have those laid out a year in advance. Then we walk through praises. What are some things we've seen God do? And what are prayer requests? And then we close in prayer. And we just go around the room, everybody pray. If we've got folks on the call remote, they pray first. So that everybody has an opportunity to pray for the issues that are involved with it. Our board is 6 men, meeting quarterly. Don't limit it to men. Women have lots of good things to say, and lots of women here have put God real well, and that's what you're trying to do. So the point is, who's got a woman on your board? That's the question you ask. And as I said earlier, 2 of them are local, 4 of them out of town. Sometimes we do it by WebEx, depending on who can make the meeting and who can't. And the key thing is they're deeply committed to Christ, and they do have some expertise in some area that's related to what we do. Very helpful. So I'll tell you some stories. Usually we hear from God at each meeting. Someone will come up with a question, or quite about probably 4 years, 5 years, Bill Murchison, who runs Murchison Drilling School here in town. He's now retired and his son is running it. So Bill was on our board, and he was exceptionally helpful because he was the only one in the room that actually run the drilling rig. He would say, don't forget about lost circulation, which means that the formation breaks and you lose fluid. So he would constantly remind us of real world things. Very helpful. Very helpful. Jim Ellen would say, at the end of the day, Bill, you have to make more than one of these. We're probably going to be in a production rate of 50 to 100 a year. We're not going to build them. We don't know how to build more than one. We're developers, we're not manufacturing people. Manufacturing people are a whole different skill set from developers. So we will be licensing this to another company to manufacture them and offer the service. So it's very helpful to have that. One of the significant things that happened, I started 7 years ago. One of our board members said, Bill, do you have a succession plan? And I said, no, I don't. And he said, well, you need to, and you need to report to this board every meeting on how you're doing it. So there was a whole other set of slides, a whole other slide every time. And so it caused exactly what God had in mind when he prompted Jim to say that. You caused me to start thinking through, okay, what does that look like? How's that going to fit? So started praying about that, asking the Lord, what is your plan? And so we report every meeting how he's coming with that. Often there wasn't a whole lot that was going on. Other times more. And then adding up the time, it was probably, it was at least 3 years ago, it might have been 4, about this time of the year, got an email from a very trusted friend. And he said, we need to have lunch. Well, when he says that, I rearrange my schedule. He's one of those people. And he introduced me to Tim Rohr. And if you haven't met Tim, you should. He's here. And So Tim worked for a major company and was restless. He was a God restless. So we started talking. I think we spent 4 months discussing the idea of Tim coming aboard, joining Tetra with the eventual goal of taking over as president. Tim meet with our advisors. They had the wives meet. The wives don't get along. It's not going to work. So we just kept walking down the road, and God kept saying, "This is what I want you to do." So Tim came aboard about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, as president. It was actually and then I had laid out a 4-year plan to train Tim to run the business. And his administrative skills are better than mine. He needed training for that. What he needed training on was the vision. Because the number one job of the CEO is keeping the vision. That matters more than anything else the CEO does. It's the keeper of the vision. And anytime a CEO gets to thinking that his primary job is administrative skills, he's missed it. He hires administrative people to work for him. His number one job is to keep the vision. And that's why I laid out a 4-year plan. It wasn't to teach Tim how to run a company. He knew better than I did. But it was to teach him the vision and make sure he clearly grasped the vision. And after 2.5 years, it was pretty new. And so a year ago May, we made the transition. I stepped down as president into the chief scientist role, and Tim took the president role. It's been working very well. It's a good move in all directions. And so, but you see, that came out of a board of advisors meeting. And that's the point I want to make to you. You can expect God to speak to you, especially on things that really matter, out of a board meeting. Because you've got people that are sitting in your meeting that are not up to their eyeballs in the minutiae of the business, but they're looking at it from a strategic perspective. And God prompted Jim to ask that question. And that question led to the transition that we did last week. So that's the kind of story that we get. We're moving into developing a second technology that's related to the first, but in a different market sector. It's very helpful. One of this new technology is a new way of breaking up rock. One of our advisors said, I think it was 2 meetings ago, he said, there's a worldwide shortage of sand. Who knew? I didn't hear that. But that's exactly what we're moving into, is to fix that problem. So it's that sort of thing that will come out of the board meeting. You get folks telling you things that you don't know about because you're not reading those journals, because that's not your field of interest. And one comment from one person will make that entire meeting work. And we expect to hear from God every meeting, and usually we hear multiple. So let me summarize this. The number one thing that you need to do before forming your board of advisors is go ask your boss what he wants to do. Christ owns you and owns your business. Look in 1 Corinthians 6 and again in 1 Corinthians 7, where we're taught that we're not our own. We've been bought with a price. That includes your business. It's not your business. It's God's business. So go ask him, what do you want to do about board of advisors? Do you want us to have a board? And if so, who do you have in mind? What's your plan? How do you want to structure it? So that's the number one thing you need to do. Anytime you do anything significant with your business, go ask God first, because it's not your business. He owns it. Go ask him, what does he want to do? And then ask him to speak through the board. Because that's your number one function of the board. You're a tool for God to speak through and to teach you things that you're too busy to listen to. Expect that and ask for it. You want godly people on your board. people who pray and people who listen. And you should expect God to speak through them to advise your management team of how to run things. You have blind spots in running your business. I ran Tetra 40 years, and I know about blind spots. You can spend the rest of the afternoon talking about blind spots. You've got them, and you need help in seeing them. They're blind spots because you can't see them. If you could see them, they wouldn't be called blind spots. And your board of advisors will help you identify and deal with those blind spots. And you should expect them and invite them to ask the hard questions. Don't respond defensively if they ask the hard questions. That's their job. They're supposed to ask the hard questions because those are the questions that you're going to skip past because they're hard and you're busy. So expect them and invite them to ask the hard questions. When you are recruiting people to serve on your board, tell them that. I expect you to ask me hard questions, and I invite you to do so, and I choose to accept that from you. You don't want them to be afraid of offending you by asking hard questions. You want to invite them to ask the hard questions. That's why you want them on the board. You do not want a board that will just believe that everything you're doing is right. That doesn't help. You want the board to look and find the flaws in the way you're doing things, and how you're not understanding the vision, how you're not being consistent with your own relationship with God and running the company. You want them to ask the hard questions because none of us are perfect. But we're taught with a multitude of advisors, there's great gain. You want to take advantage of that gain. And you want them to not only ask you hard questions, but hold you accountable. Did you hear what Jim did on succession? He didn't just ask, do you have a succession plan? He didn't just say, you need to have one. He said, and you need to report to this board every meeting on how you're coming. So he not only asked the hard question, but he held me accountable to himself. And that's exactly what you want. So before I move to plug for our FCCI groups, is there questions, observations, comments on what I've taught you about board of advisors? Yes, Wade.
So because of your transition with bringing Tim on as the president, what does that look like for the board of advisors? So are they your board of advisors? Are they Tetra's board of advisors? Is Tim going to be able to listen to that same board of advisors when you listen to them?
Yep. Good question. Really good question. Okay, Tim is now the president of Tetra. We don't use the term CEO because Christ is the CEO. Tim's the president. So he prepares the presentation material for the board. He will ask me to prepare something, but he's responsible for preparing that. He's responsible for the meeting. If he chooses to invite somebody else to the board, he has the right to do that. We ask our board members to serve 3 years at a time. So every 3 years, they have the option of stepping down without it creating a crisis. And so Tim has, and I told Tim this when we were part of the equipping for him to transition to prison. Said, this is your board. If you want to change it, you can. And the board told him that also. This is your board. If you want to change this board, you've got the freedom to do it. So it's Tetra's board, it's not Bill's board. So yeah, he's got the flexibility and freedom to make that change. Good question. Yeah, Joe.
Bill, specifically for your board of advisors, how did God bring them to you? You had 6 men and have it right off the bat? Did it take years to develop 6 men? Can you expand a little bit on how your specific board of advisors came to be?
Yeah, I can. One of them was Jim Small, professor of physics here at UNM, and then he worked for us for a while. The hydraulic drilling technology came out at a lunch meeting Jim and I had. One of us asked the other, well, what else can we do with this spectrum? Then Jim, we invented a really interesting technology for coherent focusing in microwaves. And Hughes basically bought that from us and took Jim with him. So he went to work for Hughes and Raytheon. When he retired from Raytheon, then he was now available to join the board. So I asked him to do so once he retired. So I've known Jim 20 years, I guess. I met Joe when we were both working on another project back in the early days of drilling. And it was a fairly major project, convened by a guy out of Denver. And we were to develop the drill, and Joe was handling the intellectual property. So Joe and I got to know each other there. And then I asked him to come join. Jim is one of my closest friends, Jim Allen, and so I asked him to join the board. Gary has a broader vision anyway. The edges of the box are not even visible. He's outside the box so much. So I serve on his board, he serves on mine. Ken, I've known for a long time, and again, lots of expertise, asked him to join. I probably asked Ken to join maybe 25 years, a long time. And Rich, I met at the same project. I actually had known Rich when he was here maybe 30 years ago. And so I met, reacquainted with him on the same project as he was on. So these are connections we've had. Again, you ask God, who do you want? And you connect them to who you want. And the connection may come from the direction you didn't expect. Let him put together the board in the way you need. Because right now you don't know what you need, but God does. So let him put your board together and ask. People, we try to make it reasonably easy for people to step off the board when they're too busy or when life changes. I think one of our board members is about to step off because his wife's had a lot of heart problems and spent a lot of time helping her. So you want to have an exit, and like I said, we ask for 3 young people. So, but yeah, just ask Joe.
Follow up. Did you always have 6 members? And in your experience, what is a good starter number to be for it to be effective? Or is there may not even be a number, but I don't.
If you get above 12, it's pretty unwieldy. We've never had more than 12. I think we've probably fluctuated between 4 and 7. And I don't think there's a magic number. You want it small enough that you're maintaining connection. It's real large, then you don't have to get the give and take. So I think 12 is too large. 2 is probably a little small, but 2 is better than none. 1 is better than none. So God brings one person to mind, start setting up a meeting with them, and then they can join you in praying for the others. So. And that's a real good way to start. A person who catches the vision for your business, loves you enough to tell you you're wrong, listens to God, passionately loves Christ. God says yes, invite them. Start meeting with them. And ask them to be praying. Who else should be part of this board? Because again, you want God to do the appointment. If you do the appointment, you're liable to get people who agree with you because that makes you comfortable, and that's not what you need. You need people that love you enough to tell you when you're wrong and listen to God to tell you when God thinks you're wrong. Yes, ma'am.
So, one of the criteria I think is key to selecting is knowing that God speaks to these people. And so I have a board of directors, I have 2 partners, and I have an advisory board, and they're not Christians. So the number one thing I need out of the advisory board is to hear from God.
That's right.
So one of the criteria, I have a group of intercessors that's fairly large.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of my criteria I was thinking would be, who are the people that God has used to speak to in the past? In other words, they felt like they heard something from God and they told me it, or they may not even known, but God used them to speak to me in the past. Does that seem like a reasonable? Because I know lots of people who pray, but I don't know how much God would speak through them. How did you know that these people, that God would speak through them when you picked them?
I asked him, does he want them on the board? There's a
Okay.
difference between board of advisors and a group of intercessors.
Right.
There's a fundamental functional difference. And so you want people on your board of advisors who will advise you on the conduct of your business. Intercessors are going to intercede before God to keep your business afloat and to point you to the vote. But your advisors are going to sit down with you and say, no, Deb, that's a really bad idea. You shouldn't do that. Did you consider doing this instead? That's what you want. And so you want people that have some expertise in your field. You want people that love the Lord and that God will speak through. And you want people that love you enough to tell you you're wrong. Now, you may not know whether God's going to speak to them, but if you ask God, do you want this person on the board, and he says yes, then you can rightfully assume he will speak to them. God can speak through anybody. He spoke through Balaam's donkey. He can speak through anybody. And so you don't need to be too concerned about the speaking part as you do the other parts. You can trust that if he has told you to have that person on the board, he plans to speak through them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You knew the answer to your question. Just ask.
Yeah.
Other questions? Yes?
In terms of, are there any, you mentioned like about not paying for their expenses?
No, you do pay their expenses.
You do pay their expenses.
You pay for their expenses, you do not pay for their time.
You do not pay for their time. Okay. Now, in terms of like advisors, like owning any shares in the company kind of stuff, is that something that is okay to do, or is that not?
You're going to cross that line into them being liable as directors because you're compensating them. It doesn't matter whether you write them a check or give them stock, you're still compensating them. And so, it's okay to have a board of directors. If that's what you want, it's fine to do that. But the board of directors functions a lot like the board of advisors, but their liability position is quite different, and you do not have the option of saying no to a director. Whereas an advisor, you do. You don't want to say no, but legally you have the option to say no to advisors, but you do not to a director. So they're different. There's a functional difference between the two. They're very similar in many respects, but there's a functional difference.
One more last question. Is it important to consider how busy these advisors are? Like, say they're doing like too many things, or is it important to consider that? Or let's say they're like working on 3 different
No, it's not important because at the end of the day, the person who makes the decision as to whether they should be invited to join the board and whether they should join is God. And God knows their priorities. He can change their priorities. I mean, one of our advisors is massively busy when he comes to the board meetings because God told him it's important. So you let God make that decision. Don't try to presuppose that. Yeah, absolutely. You probably will ask people that are too busy. So they're not going to make the decision, and neither are you. God's going to make the decision. Good question. Yes.
So one more thing. You talked about you asked for forgiveness for 3 years, but as advisors, I assume that they can serve as long as the board guides them to do so.
Yeah, like I said, I think Ken's been on the board for 25 years. We've had other board members come and go. You want to give them a way to step out without creating an emotional trauma. But you just give them the offer. Tell them, I've asked you to serve 3 years, you want to keep serving. I have never been at a point where I asked a board member to not renew. And you shouldn't. I mean, for goodness sake, if you've gone through those criteria, and most importantly, you've asked God, do you want Joe to serve on this board? And God said yes. If God wants Joe to come off the board, he'll tell Joe. He doesn't need to tell you. It's really, really important to keep that in mind. I mean, this was a big deal for me when we joined FCCI in 1997. I think within the first year, I took CEO off my business card for president because I realized this God owns the business. And, I taught at the international conference last September on that transition. And the reason the transition has worked, the transition in presidency from me to Tim, is because both of us understand God owns the business. God wants to change his management team, it's his company, do whatever he wants. So, it's really important to come back to that basic. God owns the business. That's huge. Put it in letters 3 feet high across your boardroom. God owns the business. Therefore, he gets to make the decisions about markets, about employees, about advisors, about leadership. It's his company. And that's another reason why we need a board of advisors to remind us that it's not our company, God owns the business. Other questions? Okay, so let me put in a commercial for small groups. As I said, we joined FCCI in 97. We already had the vision very clear that of running a company. Within the first year after I came to Christ in 72, I read 2 very influential books, God Owns My Business by R.G. Letourneau, by Stanley Tam, and Move Your Abandoned Mountains by R.G. Letourneau. And within that first year, I'm still well behind the years. I just become a Christian. And I told God, if he'd ever have me have my own business, I wanted to run it for him as a company for Christ. And, Chad was talking this morning about how entrepreneurs and blood is blood. Well, it did for me too. I was selling iced drinks in front of our house when I was in junior high. The entrepreneurial spirit ran deep. And so the concept of running a company for Christ was there. I told God that in 72, and 5 years later took it up. And that's another story. That it was not an invite, it was a push. Game checkmate. And so the training from FCCI was huge for us. It was like a light coming on a dark room. Well, we had the concept for 20 years, but didn't have any idea what we were doing. And it was huge for us. It's like a light coming on a dark room. And the principal training tool is a weekly fellowship. Conferences like this are good, but not adequate. You need the training every day, every week. You need the training every week. And it is that constant weekly training that produces change in us and our belief system, which changes how we behave in the business, which changes the business. Fellowship meeting is really important. How many of you are in a smaller FCCI group now? Okay, so I'm only speaking to one person.
I've been there before.
Okay, so it's really important. Do it. Hour and a half meeting once a week.
He's coming to our Wednesday group, Bill. He's going to be coming to our Wednesday group in the west side.
Excellent. We've got, I think, 9 groups in town. There's like 300 groups in the U.S. and over 200 overseas. This is a picture of our group probably 20 years ago. The group that I lead, we started the group, I think, in 98. It didn't continue well, then we restarted in 99, and the group that I'm leading now has been meeting since 99. And Paul Jew's been part of that group all that time. Most of the people in this picture now run their own groups. Very interesting. That's how the process works. Talking about this conference, I mentioned it when I opened in prayer last night. I'll say it again. Spend time with God processing this conference. And by the way, what I'm telling you was taught to us by Henry Blackaby at the 2001 FCCI conference. Process the conference. You should identify some key points that you've heard. And then tomorrow, spend time with those. Budget an hour with the Lord, get your Bible there, you may need a couple hours, and just go back through your notes and process the conference. What are the key things, what things do you need to do as a result of the conference, what changes in your relationship with God need to be made, what changes in your business. Process the conference. If you put it off more than a couple of weeks, you won't do it. We'll spend time processing the conference right after the conference. At the international conference in the fall, Mary Lee and I budget an extra day just to process the conference. And so, highly recommended. Pray over what he wants you to do, follow through, take action. Highly recommend FCCI groups and become evangelistic and encouraging others to get into life-changing for me personally and for our business. Let me close with time. Father God, we're just really grateful that you called us here to learn how to run our companies for Christ, to equip us so that we can make an impact, that you can make an impact in the marketplace through us. We desire to be useful instruments in your hands, changing this world for Christ, one business leader at a time. We ask your hand to be on the rest of this conference, speak through the speakers. We just pray that each of us will leave this conference different people than we came, because you, Holy Spirit, have reached through the material and changed us closer to the image of Christ. And we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.